Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. Through storytelling and conversational interviews, this weekly radio show offers listeners firsthand insight into starting and running a business, the ups and downs of risk-taking, and the commonalities of successful people. Connect with Kerry through her candid, often funny, and informative weekly blog, where you'll read and can comment on life as wife, mother, daughter, and entrepreneur. And now it's time for Kerry McCoy to get all up in your business.
Thank you, Chris. Like Chris said, I'm Kerry McCoy, and it's time for me to get up in your business. Before we start, I want to introduce the people at the table. We have, who you just heard from, Chris Cannon, my co-host, who will be managing the board and taking your calls. Say hello, Chris.
Hello.
And recording our show to make a podcast available next week is our technician, Jason Malik, from Arise Studios in Conway, Arkansas. If right now you're sitting at your computer, you might want to watch us live on flagandbanner.com's Facebook page. It's kind of fun to see what goes on behind the scenes and at the breaks. It's real-time reality radio. If for some reason you miss any part of today's show or want to hear it again, there's a way, and Chris is going to tell you how.
Listen to all UIYB past and present interviews by going to flagandbanner.com. and then click on Radio Show. Also, by joining our email list or liking us on Facebook, you'll get a reminder notification the day of the show with a sneak peek of that day's guest. Back to you, Kerry.
Thank you. This show, Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, began as a platform for me, a small business owner and a guest, to pay forward our experiential knowledge in a conversational way. Originally, my team and I thought it would appeal to entrepreneurs and wannabe entrepreneurs, but it seems to have a wider audience appeal because, after all, who isn't inspired by everyday people's American-made stories? To see people in their totality is humanizing. We all thirst to connect and make sense of an overcomplicated world, and on this show we have the luxury of time to go deeper than a soundbite or a headline. It's no secret that successful people work hard, but other common traits found in many of my guests are the heart of a teacher, belief in a higher power, and creativity, because business is creative. My guest today is the well-known and easily recognized Mr. Steve Landers, who founded Arkansas's largest chain of automotive dealerships called Landers Auto Group. Steve is a born salesman, obvious by this told story about him. At the tender age of just 5 years old, Steve walked to the newspaper office, the Benton Courier, and with his allowance of 3 cents, bought newspapers, and then standing on the street corner, he resold them for 5 cents. At the age of 12, he landed a job pumping gas in his hometown of Benton, Arkansas. By 14, he was washing cars at the local Oldsmobile dealership, and by 17, while still in high school, he was selling cars at a dealership in Little Rock, Arkansas. Just a year later, in 1972, Steve and his father, Bob Landers, decided to start their own business and founded what would become Landers Auto Group. For the next 3 years, it was just Steve and Bob. Steve out front selling, and Father Bob in the back office handling operations. 5 years later, cousin John Landers joined the group and brought his experience of being president of Colonial Bakery to the family business. Now it was cousin John running operations and Steve and Father Bob selling cars. Over the next 10 years, their success and reputation grew so that in 1989, Chrysler sent a representative to Landers in Benton, which resulted in their first franchise. And as they say, the rest is history. I can't wait to learn more as we talk to the well-known and charismatic CEO of Steve Landers Auto Group, Mr. Steve Landers. Welcome, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Kerry.
So I just want to tell everybody that you and I have been visiting for 45 minutes before the show, and that we love each other.
Right.
We are a lot alike.
A lot alike, yes.
Yeah, we are. I am fascinated by you, and really everybody is fascinated by you. Every time I told somebody you were coming on, they're like, really? Really? You're like a movie star in town.
Well, I don't know if I'm a movie star. I just know I'm an old country boy from Saline County that's worked awful hard in my life.
You really, really have. Like me, you in school did not get along.
No.
Couldn't wait to get out and start earning money. Is that story true about the 5 cents selling newspapers?
It is true. You missed the part about my allowance was 3 cents. I think I didn't have any allowance. I just mustered up a couple of dollars, and I'd go up there and buy papers for 3 cents a piece, and then I'd sell them for 5 cents a piece. A lot of times they would give me a dime, but it was five. I'd go up there, it's like 3:30 or 4 in the afternoon, and I'd stay out on the corner right by our house, about 2 blocks over. I'd stay out there till about 7:30. Well, my mother knew where I was at. Nobody would throw you in the car and steal you back then, you know. I mean, nobody would run off with you. So I would just stand on the corner and holler courier, and I'd sell those papers, and I'd make 3 or 4 cents a piece, and sometimes it's 7 cents. Somebody give me a dime, and I'd make a couple of dollars a week. I'd take that couple of dollars and buy Cokes and ice cream and stuff that I wanted. I would buy with my own money, but the back then you could buy a Baby Ruth about a foot long for a nickel and a 16-ounce Pepsi for a nickel.
So you were rich.
So I had a lot of money with $3 or $4 in my pocket.
That's exactly right. So your mother, did she work? No.
My mother worked at a radio station.
No way.
She did. My mother worked at a radio station. She did what you're doing.
No way.
Yes, and
I can't believe we didn't learn that 45 minutes ago.
Right. So she did what you're doing at a radio station for years and years.
And your dad was a car salesman always.
My
right?
dad was a car salesman when I grew up. And I actually didn't go to work with my dad till after I'd been in it about a year. I got married when I was 17 years old.
And still married today.
Still married today to the same girl, and we were high school sweethearts. And I was so bad in school that I was a grade ahead of her, and she would repeating, and I would sit behind her because her name was McMahon, mine was Landers. We sat close together, and I would try to cheat by copying off of her, and she'd cover her work up. Every time I would move a little closer, she would cover it up, and I tapped her on her shoulder. I said, "Look, if I'm going to get out of school, you're going to have to let me cheat." And she wasn't big on that, but she finally let me, get a few answers off of her. But we started dating each other, and at 15, and then 15 years old, and as soon as she got old enough to get married, we got married. And
64. You're 64 now, and you started dating when you were 15.
15, yes.
That's just a great story.
And I've been with her ever since. And
she's a saint.
She's a saint. She certainly is that.
So do you have brothers or sisters?
Got a couple of brothers. That one's in the car business, and he's he's partners with Mark Martin, a race car driver. And,
really?
Yeah, and they're partners up in Batesville. And then I've got a brother that's a pharmacist. And so
he likes school because you got to go to a lot of
school.
He
likes school, and I followed behind him 5 years, and all those teachers thought, well, I was going to be like him. Well, I wasn't like him. I was nothing like him. I didn't like school, didn't want anything to do with school, and if it hadn't been for a couple of really good teachers, knowing that I was not going to be a honor student, that I wasn't going to be they taught me the basics of math. Basic, just everything
English,
that was basic.
Basic English.
Yeah, basic English.
Just so you could get through.
Just something to get me through, because they knew that I was not going to be a scholar student. And, scholar student is not for everybody.
No.
And I got a blank high school diploma. And
but now you got to go back and say what to the school? Didn't they just ask you to come back?
No, about 10 years ago, they honored me for outstanding. I got in the School Hall of Fame for outstanding
accomplishments.
Whatever.
Citizenship.
Getting out and making it happen. So that they did honor me for that.
I think people need to recognize that there are all kinds of intelligence and levels, and I was exactly the same way. And Steve and I were talking about how we didn't know that we were probably dyslexic and ADD back then because they didn't have a name on it. That's
right. And I knew that the teachers, and when my youngest son was in the 7th, 8th grade, they came to me and they said, "Steve said your son we think's ADHD." And I said, no. I said, "My son is LAZY." And she said, "No, we think he's ADHD." Well, I got mad because I didn't think he was ADHD, but then I didn't even know what ADHD was.
Right.
But so we take him, get him tested. Sure enough, he's got ADHD, and I had it.
Yeah.
And so he got it, I had it. Now my grandson's got it.
Yeah.
So it's easy to pass on, and
boy, you can accomplish a lot with it. I don't know why people don't want people to have that. I think it's a pretty good thing.
ADHD,
personally.
if you if you focus on things that you like, is what it means. You don't focus on stuff that you don't like. And I didn't like a lot of that school stuff, so I didn't focus at all. But when I got into things that I liked, I over focus. And I I've got one gear and that's wide open. You know, if I'm going to sell cars, I'm going to sell more than anybody. You know, when I eat more than anyone. You know, I mean, I have one speed and that's wide open.
That's right.
And so you know, you have to learn to bottle it and contain it,
Which comes with maturity.
Which comes with maturity, sure does.
Absolutely does. I mean, you rode a motorcycle down the hall of the Benton High School.
I did.
Got kicked out.
Got kicked out for a week, and then I took a cherry bomb. Back then, cherry bombs were pretty big, and we didn't have all the bombings and things that we're having now. So I light a cherry bomb and was going to throw it in front of the class. I was walking down the hall at school, and I was wanting to throw it where it went off in front of the classroom, in the front of the classroom. So I throw it, it hits those slick floors of the school, and it goes right up under a teacher's desk and goes off. I got kicked out a week for that too. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get back in after that one.
Well, you are an attention getter.
But I put a greased pig. I squeezed a greased pig through the doors of the school one time, and it took them a day or two to catch that pig. I mean, nobody could hold him, and then the principal was on there saying, if somebody catches pig, you'll try to catch him and hem him up, but they could catch him, but he couldn't.
Greasy.
He's greasy. He'd run off from him. So
that's only in Arkansas.
That's only in Arkansas.
That doesn't happen anywhere else, does it?
And how my wife, who was totally the opposite, got connected with me, I'll never know.
Opposite attracts.
Opposite attracts.
All right, this is a great place to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with a super successful, well-known, funny, awesome philanthropist, Mr. Steve Landers, founder and CEO of Steve Landers Auto Group and partner of McClarty Automotive. We'll sort through all his business names and owner changes because I had to do a lot of research to figure it out. And we'll talk about what it's like to sell a business, the baby that you birthed, Landers Auto Group, for $40 million. And at the end of the show, we'll talk Mr. Landers' newest passion, horse racing, and the honor bestowed on him with his appointment to the Arkansas Racing Commission. We'll be back after the break. Want to create excitement for your business or event? Do it with affordable advertising from Arkansas's flagandbanner.com. We have teardrop banners, retractable banners, and table drapes. We have street pole banners, museum and exhibit banners. We have custom flags, event tents, tailgating poles, auto graphics, and window scrim. And don't forget, welcome home and sale banners. Consult the experts at arkansas's flagandbanner.com. Go online for a free quote or drop by our historic showroom at 800 West 9th Street in Little Rock.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. Over 40 years ago, with only $400, Kerry founded Arkansas Flag and Banner. During the last 4 decades, the business has grown and changed, starting with door-to-door sales, then telemarketing, to mail order and catalog sales. And now a third of their sales come through the internet. And this past year, Flag and Banner added another internet feature, live chatting. Over time, Kerry's business and leadership knowledge grew. As early as 2004, she began sharing this knowledge in her weekly blog. In 2009, she founded the nonprofit Friends of Dreamland Ballroom. And in 2014, Brave Magazine was launched, whose next publication is slated for October 2018. Today, she has branched out into radio with this very production, podcast, and live stream on Facebook. Each week on this show, you'll hear candid conversations between her and her guests about real-world experiences on a variety of businesses and topics that we hope you'll find interesting and inspiring. If you'd like to ask Kerry a question or share your story, send an email to questions@upyourbusiness.org. That's questions with an S at upyourbusiness.org, or send her a message on flagandbanner.com's Facebook page.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Kerry McCoy. I'm speaking today with Mr. Steve Landers, CEO of Steve Landers Auto Group. Before the break, we talked about Steve's life in Benton and how he was a born businessman, how he and I both are not really academics, and how he and I both like a good gag, good, kind of like to be the center of attention, I guess you could say. But it's all fun-loving. But now, let's talk about your business. You're in high school, you get your first job in Little Rock selling cars, and you only do it for a year before you know that you and your dad decide to go out on your own. Is there something that happened that made you decide you and your dad wanted to take that leap of faith?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Kerry. But yes, I went to I went to get a job because I was getting married. I'd been washing cars at the Oldsmobile dealership for a couple of years, as a kid, and I was going to get married, and I was making $39 a week at the hardware store before I got married, and I left the washing cars and went to the hardware store and worked, and so anyway, I got a job there, and I selling cars because I went every day and asked this guy if he would hire me. I was 17 years old. Those guys, there was 50 salesmen there,
Wow.
and those salesmen were my age and younger. There was no 17-year-olds, and so it took about a week for him to hire me. The guy, I knew him. He knew my dad, and I just kept going in, and he'd say, "I don't need you," and I'd keep going back, and I kept going back, and I kept going back, and
Persistence.
finally he said, "I'll hire you, get a haircut, and come in." So I got a haircut and went in, and the first morning I went to work. I sold a car that morning, and I'll never forget that guy walked up to me, and he said, "How much is this car?" He said, "Could I speak to a salesman?" And I looked left and I looked right, and there was nobody there. I said, "I guess I'm a salesman," because I was going to work as a salesman. That was the first one I've ever done.
First day.
Yeah, I said, I guess I'm a salesman. And he said, "How much is this car?" And I just read the window price. I think it was about $1,490 for a new car then,
Wow.
And so he said, "I'll take it." And I'd been there 30 minutes. I said,
I could do
so
this.
I made $75. I'll never forget that particular deal paid me $75. So I'd been working all week for $39 after school and stuff at a hardware store, and so I said, I found the thing I need to do.
Yeah.
Because I said I can make a living doing this. So I started working there, and I was not the best salesman because there was 50 experienced guys there, but I was the best worker. I always prided myself being the best worker. I would get there early and stay late, and I couldn't sell. I wasn't the best car salesman. So the guy that was the best car salesman there got punished for doing something, and they stuck me in as his roommate because I was a 17-year-old kid and just been in the business a couple of weeks.
His office mate, really.
His office mate, yes. And so really they were doing that to irritate him because he had done something wrong. So I'm his office mate. Well, 40 days go by. He never says good morning, good afternoon, how you doing? Not a word, never said a word to me. So I walked up to him one day and I said, "Oh man, listen, I'm gonna be here." I said, "You're not gonna run me off." I said, "I'm gonna be here and we're partners, we're in the same office." I said, "We need to learn to speak to each other." And he was the best salesman there. So he said, so we mended the fence, and he started speaking to me, and he said, "You catch the customers, bring them in to me. I'll sell them, and you listen." And so I learned how to sell cars from that guy. And then all of a sudden, I laid the board 6 months in a row. I was a top salesman out of 50 for 6 months in a row as a 17-year-old kid. So it couldn't be that I was the best salesman, because I was not the best salesman, but I was the best worker. Mm-hmm. So I outworked everybody there. They would take breaks and take off in the mid-afternoon, and I would work through that because I knew that the only way I could make it is by outworking them, because I was not the best salesman. But I led the board 6 months in a row during that first year.
How many cars is that a month?
It's about 40 to 50 cars a month.
Dadgum. That's a car a day.
Yeah, it was over a car a day. And I did it, but back then it was a lot easier, a lot less paperwork, but I would sell over a car a day, 2-3 cars a day, and so I found that this was my niche. But I'll never forget the first year I made like $21,000 for the year. And I was the best salesman there, so what the other guys were making, because I made $21,000. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that, but it was a lot of money back then.
That's a lot of money, yeah.
Yeah, it was about a lot of money back then, so then I decided, that I would. They wanted me to come down and work where my dad was at, and so the job was $300 a week. And my wife thought I was crazy.
Yeah, because that's going to be a cut in pay.
Yes, but I knew that, like my dad said, you'll learn more down here than you're learning there. They're not going to teach you the car business, but you come down here with us and we'll teach you the car business. You're not going to make as much money, but you're going to learn the business.
And your dad was working for somebody else.
Yes,
he wasn't working for himself.
He was working for somebody else. And I went down and we worked. I worked with him down there for about a year, and I was out selling all the guys there, because they didn't work as hard as I did. But after about a year, I told the owner of the store, I said, look, I'm going to make $400 a week next year, here or somewhere else. I'd love to make it here if you'll just pay me for it. I'm not going to pay you that much, he said. He said, I don't pay myself but $350 a week, and I'm not paying you $400 a week. I said, well, just put me on commission. If I don't sell anything, you don't owe me a dime.
There you go.
And so when he put me on commission, I made $1,800 the first week.
Oh.
And he didn't want to pay me because it was way too much in his mind. So my dad got mad because he didn't want to pay me what he owed me, and I was mad because he didn't want to pay me what he owed me. So my dad and I said, we're leaving, and we left and started our own used car lot. Had 30 cars in stock, 30 total cars in stock, and we had a little trailer, 40 by 60.
And I remember, you and I are the same age, and
Right.
I remember that I was trying to get a job around that age, and I was thinking, it seems to me, if I'm remembering correctly, that $8,000 a year was a good pay.
Yes.
And you're making $21,000 a
Yes.
year.
And then I take a job for $300 a week
Yeah.
to learn the business because
You were
I-
investing in yourself.
because I knew this was a business I was going to stay in. Mm-hmm. I mean, I knew, I've never, not one day since I hired in, wanted to be in another business. Everybody has jobs. They don't like this job. They don't like that job, and they're waiting for another job, and they're hunting another job, and the grass is greener over there. I've done one thing my whole life, and that's sell cars. And I made it to where instead of just selling cars, I wanted to do a service. I wanted my kids to say, "My dad can get you any kind of car you want."
Oh, interesting.
Instead of my dad's a car dealer, I want them to say, "Hey, you need a car? Call my dad. He'll take care of it."
Had you already had kids by now?
No, I had kids a couple of years after that, so but I wanted them to grow up in school saying to their teachers and stuff, it's okay, my dad will help you. If you need some help on a car, call him. If your payment's too high, call my dad.
Where'd you get the money to buy the first cars?
We
Or were
bought-
they used cars?
Well, I bought the first car. Sandy and I had a checking account, and
Uh-oh.
so I wrote a check for $800 on her checking account, and she gave me checks. I didn't have the book. She just gave me a couple of checks.
She's
So I
smart.
wrote a check for $800 and bought a car. Well, I didn't tell her about it, and then she got everything all out of whack. Well, she took the checkbook away from me that day. That was 1972.
And you hadn't had it back since?
I hadn't had it back since. I've never written a check since then. So she took the checkbook away from me, and probably rightly so, because I probably wouldn't write everything in there I was supposed to anyway. So, but she took it away from me. She managed all that. I just make it. She managed it. And
I love it. I love it. I want to tell everybody also that when I called you up and asked you to be on the radio, and I said, well, I'll send you an email. You said, I don't do email. I said, how can you not do email? What'd you say?
I said, well, Kerry, I don't do an email. I'm sorry, but I said, I've never done an email in my life. I've never turned a computer on in my life. I don't know how to turn a computer on. I've never been on Facebook, Twitter. I've never been on anything.
You're on Facebook now because we're Facebook Live.
Okay, well, this is the first time. So this is the first for me to be on Facebook. I've never done any of that because I didn't grow up in that age. I grew up where all we had to play with was a baseball all summer and a football all winter, and that was it. Now, we didn't have a bunch of stuff. We didn't have games, and I grew up when my dad would take us on Friday night. He'd get paid. He'd take us to the Dairy Queen out there and get us a hot dog and a milkshake. And we thought that was a big outing. That was a big outing for us. And so, my grandkids are not like that.
No,
my kids are not like that.
Right. So when did you know you had made a success? When did you know that you and your dad were onto something? You're selling cars out front. He's in the back making sure the operations run good. How? And then your cousin John joins you after a couple of years. When did you start saying, "Oh, we're onto something here"?
Well,
or was there something?
Yeah, there was something. It was special. It was special that I was able to work with my dad for 25 years, day by day. And he was always my dad, and he'd chew me out. But it was like a dad chewing you out. He'd say, "Come on, son, you did this wrong, that wrong." He wouldn't. It was a dad relationship. I loved him, and if I didn't like what he said, I'd go and do whatever I thought what I wanted to do. And he never would say anything.
Well, he couldn't argue with your numbers, that's for sure.
No, he couldn't argue with numbers. So I would do things that would sometimes shake him up a little bit. As far as ordering and buying cars, but it was great to be able to work with your dad.
You said, I asked you if you loved cars before we went on, and you said nope.
do not love them.
And
You know, there's people that love cars. I just they're a means for getting back and forth places and a means for me to make a living with, and that's the way I've always looked
Well,
at
you
it.
can't fall in love with a car because you'll sell it out from under you.
I do that too.
You said your wife's.
My wife wanted it. She had a little Volkswagen when 15, 16, we were 17 years old, and I would sell it out from under her. And so, you know, I told her, I said, don't get used to having cars that are going to be with you a long time, because I said, we're going to sell them if somebody wants them.
You sold them when she's been in the grocery store.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, you came out. Oh, your car's gone.
I picked them up places where she's shopping and put another car there and leave her a note that keys are in the gas tank or whatever.
That's pretty bad. He'll sell anything.
Yeah.
Your commercials are so successful, and you worked with your sons for a little while.
Worked for my sons a while, and I still work with them. I'm retired now, and I work about 45 hours a week. I work about 25 for one and 20 with the other. And, you know, they don't pay me.
They don't.
No, so it's a non-paying job. So if anybody needs a car salesman, call me, because my sons are not paying me. Now, I paid them all these years that they worked for me. And a funny story, they both went to, I had one that played college baseball, one played college football. And so both of them, as soon as they got to college, one of them was a A student, did honors and all that. He gets to college, he don't even have a 1 point. You know, I mean, it's terrible. And so I told him, I said, son, I said that he was just turned 18, and I said, I'll tell you what, go thank the coach for giving you a scholarship, and tell him that you're going to turn your scholarship back in and give it to somebody that wants it and that needs it and wants to study, you know, to get an education. I said, turn it in today, thank him for it, and apologize for letting him down. You'll be on the car lot Monday morning. And I said, the bell's not going to ring Monday afternoon at 4 or 5 o'clock. You're there, and we're going to go. So my wife I almost got a divorce over that, because I pulled them both out of college.
Both of them?
Both of them did the same thing. And I pulled them out of college, put them on the car lot, and I said, y'all work for me now. And I said, it's not going to.
Did they ever go back to school?
Nope.
Interesting.
They never went back to school. One of them runs. He runs about 15 stores, owns part of 15 stores across the U.S. The other one's got stores and cattle. They never did go back to school.
Well, I think that was a good decision.
But, you know, sometimes school is not for everyone.
Well, they're partying too much, probably.
Well, and they could do that if they want to do that here at home. But you know, school's not for everyone. And so, you know, sometimes people, you know, put too much emphasis on school. You know, being able to, you know, learning how to work and how to you know, take care of yourself and all that is things that I learned as an early child. You know, I used to go to car auctions and horse auctions and stuff, and my grandpa would give me $10 to buy, you know, a bridle with, and I'd buy it, and he wouldn't give me any more money until I sold it. I'd put it back in a sale the next week. You know,
the horse?
No, the bridle, just that goes around his foot. You know, it goes around his head. I'd buy a bridle for, you know, $5, and he wouldn't, and I'd take that 10 and then I'd try to turn it into 20, you know, and then I'd try to turn that 20 into 40.
That's the work ethic that we are missing, I think, when we're teaching our kids today. And there's a lot of rules out there where you can't even get a job till you're 16 years old, I think, which I think is kind of a disservice for some of these kids, because I started work when I was 14.
Well, you know, these kids now need to think about, other than a professional doctor, lawyer, dentist, all that stuff, they need to think about being a diesel mechanic, or, you know, if they're good with their hands, go out to, you know, this Botech, Plasky Botech's really got a great program out there, and they teach these kids how to get jobs that they could make a lot of money and support their families. Learn a trade and own your own business and the whole 9 yards by going through that trade. So
yeah, I think so too. I think that's a great idea. You do a lot of commercials. They're so successful. You're like a rock star in Arkansas because of all the commercials you do, and they're funny. With your sons, you're not doing them with your sons anymore.
No, they've gone their separate ways as they got older. You know, I mean, one of them wanted to be in the cattle business. He's up in Clinton, and he's got dealerships up there, Clinton and Heber Springs and Bryant. So I got one son that's got dealerships up there. Then I got one that just took over all of our stuff out here, you know, and he runs it. So I mean, they've gone. Little Rock, and he's got stores in Oklahoma. He's got stores in up in Minneapolis. He's got stores in Missouri and Arkansas.
Wow,
So
lots of them. He's got a lot of. He's traveling a lot.
He's traveling a lot.
That's a lot. So on all those commercials, I always wonder if you're a stickler for some particular thing that you do that you're like, I always want to have something in my
With
advertising.
big operations stuck on you. Dad's really attached to his phone. We're taking it to the next level.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, you think you can give us a hand down here? I hear alcohol helps.
Y'all need to get a real job. Why don't y'all get a job somewhere else? All right, boys, you liking this sticky stuff, huh? See you later, boys.
Thanks. Was this your idea? No, we never should have glued that phone. Hello? Help? How's it going? Just hanging out?
You know, I always wanted to have that. We don't ever really talk about price. We just talk about. We just build the brand. You know, we've just been able to build a brand.
That's true. You don't ever talk about
We
price.
talk about, you know, hey, we're going to take care of you. Come in, see us. If you need to sell your car, come in, see us. If you need to buy a car, come see us. We just talk about brand, and then comical stuff came along 7-8 years ago, and it was stuff that we would do on a daily basis. You know, my sons and I, you know, I'd be riding in a car with them, they'd be fighting, and I'd be driving down the road trying to slap one of them while I was driving, you know, and we've done that their whole lives.
Yeah.
I mean, they fought like from the time they were little boys, they'd fight, just get in the car, and they'd start fighting, you know, and I'd be trying to drive and hit at them, you know, and Sandy would be screaming and hollering, don't, and I'd be trying to hit them. So. But so it was
He's
easy.
such a down-to-earth guy, isn't he?
So it was easy for us to do commercials.
Yeah.
And you know, come on, guys. Yeah, I mean, I could say, you know, come on, man, what are you doing? You know, and it was just normal,
Every day,
just the way it really was.
Well, because of your commercials, I have become a stickler. Your face has become such an important part of your branding that you were talking about that I've asked my marketing staff to put my face on everything because I think I really like that about your commercials. And so you've influenced Arkansas Flag and Banner in that way.
Well, good. And you know, branding is, branding is, instead of price gets so mixed up and people get so confused on pricing, you know, of cars that they don't know what to do.
You're not selling products. We're selling
a brand.
You are absolutely selling a
selling a brand.
And that's really, I don't even think people realize that, but I saw it, I noticed it. I came into my marketing team before I ever met you and said, I want to do what Steve Landers is doing.
You know, I bought about 70 over the years, 70 car dealerships, you know, in different states and different countries. And, you know, I've been in China, I've been been in Brazil, I've been in Mexico with car dealerships and all across the U.S. You know, so our business has grown, and that brand is, if you're driving in Tennessee, if you're driving in Louisiana, if you're driving in Texas, you'll see Landers on car dealerships. Those are dealerships that I owned at one time, you know, and built and got them going, and then so.
And then sold for $40 million.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. This is a great place to take a break. I want to know how $40 million changes you. But when you come back, we'll continue our conversation with a super successful, well-known, extremely likable, down-to-earth philanthropist, Mr. Steve Landers, founder and CEO of Steve Landers Auto Group and partner of McClarty Automotive. In this next segment, we'll talk about what it's like to sell a business, the baby you birthed. I don't know if I could ever sell it. Landers Automotive Group for $40 million to the United Auto Group, and how it changes you. Don't think it's changed you a bit. And at the end of the show, Mr. Landers can tell us about his newest passion, horse racing, and the honor bestowed upon him with his appointment to the Arkansas Racing Commission. But first, I want to remind everyone we're broadcasting live every Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Time on KABF 88.3 FM, the voice of the people, and flagandbanner.com's Facebook page. And that after 1 week of every show's airing, a podcast is made available on all popular listening sites and YouTube.
This
Boost morale and patriotism with a new flag or flagpole from Arkansas's flagandbanner.com. We have poles, hardware, accessories, maintenance support, installation, and custom flags. We have flags of all kinds. For the sports enthusiast, the world traveler, or history buff, we have them all. Bring in your old flag and get $5 off a new one. Consult the experts at Arkansas's flagandbanner.com. Come shop our historic location at 800 West 9th Street in Little Rock, or visit us online at flagandbanner.com.
Flagandbanner.com is proud to underwrite Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy. This weekly radio show and podcast offers listeners firsthand insight into starting and running a business, the ups and downs of risk-taking, and the commonalities of successful people shared in a conversational interview with Kerry. Along with this radio show, flagandbanner.com publishes a free biannual magazine called Brave. First published in October 2014, this magazine features everyday people's real-life stories of bravery. Its goal? To inspire you to celebrate your own bravery and challenge you to recognize it in others. The Department of Arkansas Heritage recognized Brave Magazine's documentation of American life and microfiches all editions for the Arkansas State Archives. Brave Magazine will be in your mailbox and hitting newsstands October 2018. Free subscriptions and advertising opportunities are available at flagandbanner.com by selecting Magazine, where you can read previous stories and learn about advertising opportunities.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Kerry McCoy. I'm speaking today with Mr. Steve Landers, CEO of Steve Landers Auto Group. If you've got a question, make a comment on flagandbanner.com's Facebook page or write this number down and call.
That would be 501-433-0088.
Again, Chris.
501-433-0088.
And if you're shy, you can just creep on my weekly blog about life as a small business owner at flagandbanner.com. Or as I said earlier, you can listen to all of our podcasts. Before the break, I want to take this opportunity, actually, before we jump into the next segment, to give a big shout out and thank you to Centennial Bank for partnering with the Friends of Dreamland Ballroom and sponsoring this year's Dancing into Dreamland, which is Friday, November the 2nd, and is turning out to maybe be our first sold-out event. And if you're watching on Facebook, you don't know that Steve is, but you can see my crutch over here because I sprained my ankle 2 days ago, and Steve's having knee surgery in a couple of weeks. That's why we had to get him on. And Centennial Bank is helping us raise money for an elevator for the Dreamland Ballroom, and now I know why people need an elevator.
Yep.
Because we're on the second floor, and Steve and I were up there getting up here. Before the break, we talked about Steve's life growing up in Benton and how he was a born salesman from day one. He hardly got out of high school before he was off selling flags and was hugely successful, making more than any other person I know at 18 years old. Got married early and is still married to the same wife. How he and his father decided to go out on their own and start their business. We talked about the branding of Landers and how when you think of buying a car, you think of Landers. I mean, that's just what you do, and how his branding has done a great job. But the big changes, now we're going to hit 1989 to 2005, a 25-year span with big changes. In 1989, your dad and you and your cousin had a car lot that you were hugely successful, so successful that Chrysler Corporation came to your car lot and made you an offer. Tell us how that changed everything.
Well, they made us an offer, Kerry, they wanted us to become a standalone Jeep dealer. And at that time, I really didn't want to be one because we were doing really good in selling used cars. We'd sell 200-something used cars a month by then. And I didn't really want to be a Jeep dealer. But this guy from Chrysler came in and he said, look, I'm fixing to retire. We're going to put an open point here. Open point means the factory will give it to you. You don't have to buy it. And he said, look, there's going to be 4 or 5 guys trying to get it, but I want you to apply. I said, I don't know if I want to, but he came back in a couple of weeks and said, would you please apply? Excuse me. So I said, yeah, we'll apply. And so we applied for the dealership, and 3 or 5 weeks later, the guy comes back and he said, it's down between you and 2 other guys. And he said, these 2 other guys have got college educations. And he said that they really want a guy with a college education. So I said, well, that's not me. So he goes back to Tennessee, where the headquarters were. Said, "Look, this is the guy you want. He doesn't have any college, but I'm telling you, this is the guy you want." And he said he'll sell cars, and so they gave it to us, and the rest was history. Within 4 years, we led the world.
The world.
The world.
Wow.
And Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep sales, the world. And so in the mid '90s, early '90s, we led the world. We were selling 1,050 a month in a population of 12,000 people.
How are you? And we didn't have the internet.
No, we didn't have the internet.
How'd you do that?
Because
People drove from all around?
From all around. We created the fact that we were the best place to buy a car.
Did you advertise in newspapers?
Newspapers, and we advertised. Back then we did newspapers, and we did radio, and we did a little TV, but
What states did you advertise?
all of them.
Every one of them.
Every one of them. We did all.
And they all drove to Benton, Arkansas.
They all drove to Benton, Arkansas. And when you sell
Now we know why Benton's big, because of you. You brought all that money.
When you sell 1,000 cars a month,
Yeah.
without any internet,
Yeah.
the closest thing to that right now that's happened in the last 25 years has been my son last month sold 900 cars. So he
In Clinton or the other one?
no, here in Little Rock, it just at our Dodge store, and so
900 cars in 1 month.
900, and so it's
a
new
lot
and
of
used.
cars.
But the fact is, we're is the word synonymous?
That's the word I was trying to think of. Truth. That's the word I was trying to think of. Is it synonymous? It is synonymous. Thank you. For us uneducated high school graduates, it's synonymous.
For volume and taking care of the customers in volume. And so Chrysler thinks it's a phenomenon because it was a population of 10 or 12,000 people back then when we led the world. And so I've got 3 globes that are made out of crushed crystal that they give you for being the top in the world.
And you got 3.
Got 3. I gave one son one and one the other, and I kept one. So, but it's pretty good. Now these boys are coming along and doing the same thing. They're coming along right behind us and doing it because they were raised in this and they understand it like we, they understand it, and so it's been pretty good.
It's changed a lot, though.
Changed a lot, yeah.
I mean, a lot. So in 1995, so you're selling 1,000 Jeeps. Chrysler's, you're selling more than anyone else in the world.
Yes.
In 1995, you sold the land. It's called the Landers Auto Group now, and you
Yes.
sold it for $40 million to the United Auto Group. How many partners did you have at that time?
At that time we had 2, so it was 2 partners in that with us.
How did that change things?
It didn't,
You're not changing at all right now.
I'm not changed at all. My dad still drove an old two-door truck and didn't want anything fancy on it. I lived the same. Dad lived the same. Kids went to the same schools.
Still worked all the time.
Still worked all the time.
You, because they asked you to come back. Let's see. Roger Penske bought it. After 3
Yes.
years, Roger Penske bought
Yes.
it. Did you have to stay on with the auto group for a
I
while?
didn't have to, but Roger asked me, he said, would you run the central part of the U.S. for the new auto group that we're doing? Mm-hmm. I said, Roger, I just got that money. I've worked every day since I was a kid. I said, I probably don't want to. And he said, well, I'll give you this if you'll do it. And I said, I think I'll start. I said, where do you want me to start? And so Roger and I had a great relationship. And there's probably not a smarter businessman on the planet than Roger Penske.
Really?
And a more honest, he would, whatever Roger told you, that's the way it was. And I tell people, I said, I didn't go to college, but I got an MBA from Roger Penske.
Really?
Because I spent 8 years with him, and I spent 8 years working with Roger only.
How did Roger originally get his money?
Just in auto business.
It's always okay.
been auto business. He raced. He was into racing.
That's where I know his
he's a
name
terrible
from.
driver.
That's
He's
where
the
I know
worst
him.
driver on the planet, but he loved to drive. So when I used to be out with him, he'd always want to drive, But he would always get us in binds, with his driving. He was a terrible driver. But he used to race car drive some,
So he's a race car driver with a business bent.
Yes. Yes.
So
And,
what
his right now he's got more Indies than anybody, I think. More Indianapolis 500s and
Well, he's not such a terrible driver.
well, he doesn't. It's his drivers.
Oh, I gotcha. Oh, look, Chris is like,
Yeah, he pays for performance. It's just like he paid me when I sold out to him, and then he hired me back. He said, "I'm going to pay you this and, perform. As long as I performed, the pay was there, and so that was good. And then after 8 years with Penske, I went to work. I partnered up with McClarty.
Yes.
And Mac and I partnered and started an auto group.
Another auto group.
It
is called Landers Auto Group.
It's called RML.
RML.
And it was called McClarty Landers for a long time. And then Robert Johnson, who started the BET network.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Johnson and I and Mac partnered in a big group. So we were the number one minority-owned group in the nation, which Bob owned 60%, Mac owned 20, I owned 20. And so, but Bob wanted to be the number one minority-owned group in the country. And
where's he get his money from?
BET Network, he sold it for about $2 or $3 billion to Viacom. So yeah, that's where Bob got it. And Bob's good. Bob's a great business guy.
I think honesty is so important to be a successful business person.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I bet you're the kind of guy that people just do handshake deals with you all the time.
I'd rather do a handshake than a contract.
I agree. I don't want to read the contract.
Yeah, right,
And after you went in with McClarty into your new group, because you, I thought it was nice when I read this that Penske sold you a Toyota dealership.
Well, Penske gave me.
Gave you.
Penske didn't sell us a Toyota dealership. He said it. We bought his dealership and started our own deal in Little Rock. Penske had a dealership. Penske had got out of that dealership and we sold out. So anyway,
I see. So he was getting out of that one and you bought that one.
Right.
So what is it? Was it the old Jones Toyota dealership?
Was one of them, yes.
Because we were talking about Mr. Jones in the old days. They're not around anymore.
No.
So it seems like all these car lots and dealerships have all been consolidated into how many auto groups are there left in America?
There are probably a couple of hundred auto groups.
It doesn't seem like it.
The major ones are Penske Automotive, and the major ones are Auto Nations, Group One. So there's some big auto groups now, but eventually they'll control all the auto business.
It's like everything's going into monopolies these days.
It's like banks and everything else.
It's all going into monopolies.
Yes.
When you partnered with McClarty on those 20 dealers that you first bought,
yes,
one of them was a mobile homes.
Yes.
And then I read that right after, because of Katrina, you sold mobile homes.
Yes.
To all those.
No, that was a Ford store in Northwest Arkansas that Mac and I bought. It had been up for sale for a little while, but nobody would buy the Ford store because he had a motorhome dealer that was adjacent to it that he wanted you to buy. That was back when
nobody thought that was a good idea.
No.
And you were like, "I'll take it."
Yeah, I said I'll take it.
See, you can't learn that kind of intelligence in school.
So the way I figured that is, I told Mac, I said, if we buy these motorhomes, I said most we could lose is probably a couple of 100,000. So what I'm saying is, if it would mean that we just paid $200,000 more for his business.
That's a way to look at it.
And so I said the other guys are afraid of it, but I said I think we can lose $200,000. We ended up losing $80,000, but we got the business bought. We've had it for about 15 or 20 years now.
Well, I thought you made it back though when you got to sell all those mobile homes to the displaced Katrina.
Well, yeah, but we ended up losing $80,000.
Instead of the $200,000 you originally thought.
Yes, instead of $200,000.
I'm with you. We're not going to take a big break. I just want to tell everybody that you're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Kerry McCoy, and I'm speaking today with Mr. Steve Landers, CEO of Steve Landers Auto Group. So you are still working.
I still work.
But you don't get paid by your sons.
My sons don't pay
You don't work for money anymore.
No, I just work to help them. But
That's nice.
Something I always live by, success is not owned, okay? Success is rented, and that rent's due every day. So if people will look at it like that, success is not owned, it's rented, and the rent's due every day.
That's a great tweetable quote.
You got to pay that rent every day to be successful.
You could do a lot of tweeting if you would tweet.
No, I don't do no tweeting.
All right, we talked about your life when you were young, how you quickly grew up at 18, got married, and became a great car salesman, and then how you worked hard, and you and your father, and then you sold your first I call Arkansas Flag and Banner my firstborn.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you felt about selling your business, but I'm sure if someone offered me that kind of money, I'd sell it. But
I cried.
huh?
I cried when I sold it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I thought about that.
I cried when I first sold it. Because I like you said, we raised it, you know.
I know.
It was like getting rid of a child.
I know. I mean,
cried,
money's
yeah.
money, but it's nice. But it is.
You know, and I told the guys when I was signing, I said, yeah, I'm crying a little bit, but I said, I'll get over it in a minute, you know. And I got over it.
So you're still working, and now you are a horse racer. You are into the horse racing big time. That is that's a hobby, or are you making money at it?
Well, you know, no, I made some money actually this year. But, you know, if you want to become a millionaire in the racehorse business, start with 4. And at the end of the year, you'll have 1. You'll be a millionaire. You know what I mean? So,
That's what I've heard.
No, it's a very expensive business, but it's a lot of fun if you work it. And I get up every morning about 4:30, and I start working on my racehorse business till about 6:30, and then I leave the house and I go work on the car business. And so, but I've got about 26 racehorses, and
That's a lot.
We race all over the country. Last week in New York at Saratoga, we raced for the Woodward Stakes, which was a big race, you know, one of the top races in the country. And we ran, we had the lead until the wire and got beat right at the wire. So
What happens when you come in second?
well, you get a little less money. You know,
But
there
you
was
still get money.
$750,000 if you win it. So, you know, it was a big race. And so you get a little less money, but you know, you just want your horse to win, just like your kid playing football. You want your kid to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I do it because I like for them to win. You know,
You like to gamble.
no, I don't gamble. I used to gamble, but I don't gamble anymore. But my gamble's out there on the track because I got a big investment in these horses, and I'm raising babies up. You know, and you know, you want to see them come up, you want to see them do good. And
You
it's-
liked horses when you were a kid, didn't you?
No,
I thought you said you went with your dad to some horse shows.
I used to go to horse sales and stuff, but I didn't really like horses.
What made you decide to get into horses now?
You know, I've been on them on and off for about 20 years. And I like the thoroughbred business. I like the business side of it.
It's funny. You don't. I say, "Oh, you love cars." You go, "No." Oh, you love horses? No.
No.
I really don't. I mean,
You love the creativity of business.
I love doing business. I love doing business. I love making deals. Some guy wrote a book last year on me, a master deal maker, and it's for sale in the Krogers and places like that.
Really?
Yeah, and it's master deal maker because you know I learned at an early age to buy, sell, and swap. Okay, that's a trade. There's guys that have got PhDs and they're brilliant people around the world that can't buy, sell, and swap.
Yeah.
You know, so they can do something I can't do, and I can do something they can't do. You know, and I mean, I've learned to. I buy, sell, and swap property. I buy, sell, and swap horses, cars. You know, just things. That's what I do, and I love doing it.
You're very you're very risk taking in all these things around you. You seem to like the change. You don't hold on to things except for in your personal life. You've probably lived in the same house for a long time.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, got the same wife that since you're
The same
15
wife,
years.
yeah.
Got your kids are the same. But yet all out around you, all this creativity is around you that's always
Yeah,
being
yeah.
changed in
You know, I learned a lot of that from Penske. Penske used to say, think outside the box. You know, he used to say, think outside the box, Steve. I want you to think outside the box. And, you know, I was making big decisions. I bought over 50 dealerships with Penske, and I'd do it on my own and buy it, and I'd think outside the box, and I didn't have a degree in anything, you know what I mean? But I had some wonderful teachers when I was a kid that taught me to read and write and to add, subtract, and to, you know, and they taught me that, and they knew that that's what I needed, you know, that I wasn't going to be a scholar student, but they knew that's what I needed, and they taught me that, and I love those teachers.
You're intuitive though about people, I think.
Well, I learned to read people. This is what we do in the car business. You read people. These guys going to buy today. You know, you learn to read people, and that helps in buy, selling, and swapping. You know, so
So you've been appointed to the Racing Commission.
been appointed to the Racing Commission.
When did that happen?
Last year from the Governor Hutchinson, and I'm enjoying it really. I really enjoy it.
What does a racing commissioner do? Or
We kind of oversee all the things that happen at the tracks and the casinos and those kind of things. And I know there's a big casino issue coming up, but those casinos, if they come in, would be under the racing commission, as far as.
How many times do you have to meet a year?
We meet once a month, so 12 times a year. And I got some great guys that are on there with us, and very smart business guys and horsemen. So you enjoy that, and you try to make things good for the public when they come over. To enjoy the day, or like Oakland did a deal last year where they put an extra kick on the show money, the third place money. Because so many people would play that,
right?
That they don't come in there to gamble. They come in there just to win and just to hit a little, And so Oakland raised that up. It's really nice for the betting public to go over there because they can win a little bit. And,
so the show's paying a little bit more than it used to pay. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, I always just do the 3 across.
Yeah, but you can do the show and do pretty good. They add
What's
about
the best bet you should bet over there?
Best bet's to win only.
Win only.
Yeah. Just bet them to win and don't
trifecta.
No, but the exotic betting is really nice. People pick numbers, and that's how they make a lot of money. You just throw a bunch of numbers together, and bam, it hits, and you can win a lot of money by doing it. So, but my dad always told me, he said, they didn't build Las Vegas on winners.
Right.
They built it on losers. So, it took me a long time to understand that in my life. But I finally understood they didn't build those places on winners. They built it on losers.
You got to lose a lot of money to figure that out, I think.
You got to lose a lot of money to figure that out.
But do you think horse racing's not quite like sitting there pulling the slot machines? Because you can put some analytical thought into it.
I love it because you can study the forms.
Right.
You can study, and it's got the hats and the dresses and the festivities of the race meet. It's just wonderful, and I really do enjoy it. And I got some great guys on the commission with me, and that we all work hard to give the public.
Do you travel all the time?
I travel quite a bit, but I've not done so much with my leg. My leg's been a problem. I've had several knee surgeries, but I'm fixed to get one more, and I'm going to get this leg fixed, and so I can.
One more that's going to last a year. The surgery's going to last about a year, though.
Well, I'm going to get fixed so I can travel around the country and watch the horses I've got run.
So you traveled all the time when you were
all the time
for Penske.
Yes.
I mean, you had dealerships like you said everywhere, every day.
Every day.
Did
I
you have
traveled 6 days a week.
I hope you had a private plane.
Had a private plane.
Oh, that's the only way I'd do that.
But I would keep it rolling. But I'll tell you a funny story. And I tell these kids now that I said, y'all take this social media. You've taken the social out of business with social media. The social part. I mean, I used to stop on the road when I see one of my customers mowing his grass. I'd stop and I'd drink a glass of tea with him. Say, hey, man, you know anybody want a car? Yeah, my brother's wanting a new truck, Steve. That's how I did that. And these kids now, everything's on this little box that they've got in their hand. And there's no social. You could walk right by one of them and they wouldn't say, hi, how you doing today? Can I help you, sir? Can I help you, ma'am? And they've got too far one way. I like the social part of it, where I can come visit with you, or I can go, see you at dinner at night. Hey, Steve, I need a car. Yeah, sure, I'll take care of you. What do you want? Boom, 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 and do that. And
it'll probably swing back the other way. I feel like the pendulum is swaying all the way over here to isolation, and I think they're going to probably figure it out, and it'll maybe swing back to the middle.
But I've got a 2-year-old grandson that can sit down in my lap, punch the buttons on my phone that he wants to read, and he'll swipe and do all. He's 2 years old. He can't even speak good, but he can use his phone. So what's he going to be doing when he's 18, 20?
I mean,
it's
know.
Unbelievable.
I mean,
he can't,
right?
He can speak a little bit, but he can't speak a lot, and he can use that phone. So
I have enjoyed talking to you so much. I don't think I've grinned this much in a long time. You're just a nice guy. Here's your gift.
Oh, great.
A U.S. flag and Arkansas flag desk set. I bet you don't even have one. You need one.
No, but we do a lot of fun. We bought a lot of flags from you over the years.
You sure are. Landers is a great customer of Arkansas Flag and Banner. Thank you very much. Well, look, you don't tear it all up.
Speaking of flags, our flag got blown all to pieces the other day, our big flag.
Yeah.
We were the ones that started the big flags.
You were. That's exactly right.
And now everybody does them. But we had our big flag, and a storm came through, and it tore it into 50
shreds.
pieces. 50 pieces. They just scattered it all over the lot. Then we had to buy a new one from you. You know.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Yeah. So
Thank you
it's,
very much.
So,
You know, you really were the first one. Whose idea was that to put up a big flag?
you can't. You know, I don't know.
don't
Maybe
remember?
mine. But I put them in Texas and in Kentucky. Everywhere we were at, I would put a big flagpole.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so
Thank you, Steve. I really enjoyed
thank you,
talking.
Kerry. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And
Chris,
thank you, Chris.
You got it. Thank you.
who's our guest next week, Chris?
That's going to be Josh Hill, 5-time Jeopardy winner from right here in Little Rock.
Oh my gosh, this guy is so good. I actually go to church with this guy. He and I usher together. He's the quietest, nicest guy. All of a sudden, the next thing I know, he's on Jeopardy. He wins 5 days in a row. He's the smartest guy I've ever met. He's so unassuming, you would never know. So he's now going to get to go into some championship game. He's already won, let's see, $117,000 already. I know. He's just a regular
So it does
guy.
pay to go to school.
So it does pay to go to school. Chris and Steve, thank y'all both
Thank you.
again. You're welcome. And I want to thank Centennial Bank one more time for partnering with the Friends of Dreamland Ballroom and sponsoring this year's Dancing into Dreamland Friday, November the 2nd. Tickets available online. If you have a great entrepreneurial story that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. Send a brief bio and your contact info to questions, that's questions with an S, at upyourbusiness.org. And finally, to our listeners, thank you for spending time with me. If you think this program has been about you, you're right, but it's also been for me. Thank you for letting me fulfill my destiny. My hope today is that you've heard or learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening. And if you haven't been listening. And that whatever it is, will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
You've been listening to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. If you miss any part of the show or want to learn more about UIYB, go to flagandbanner.com and click on Radio Show, or subscribe to her weekly podcast wherever you like to listen. All interviews are recorded and posted the following week with links to resources you heard discussed on today's show. And Kerry's goal is to help you live the American dream.